Today I got a DELL Inspiron 5000 series laptop. It's been sitting around for a few years, not being used. I'm going to do some stuff to it and make it usable again. Let's get started. Hey guys, how's it going? Dale here. I'm going solo again today. Both my camera guys are on vacation, well-needed vacations, so I wasn't going to let that stop me from doing some content. What I have here today is a DELL Inspiron 5000 series laptop. It's a 5567, that's the model. It's an older one, it's about 4 or 5 years old. The customer that brought it in bought it new about 4 or 5 years ago because they were going to use it in their fifth wheel, and they stuck it in the fifth wheel and kind of forgot about it, and they maybe barely used it. It's still got the original Windows that came on it back then, the 1703 edition. It's got a Windows 10 Pro digital license. So yeah, it's way out of date. So the easiest thing to do, and of course it's got a 1 terabyte hard drive. It's quite slow, it takes forever to boot up. It does have 8 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. So they want to start using it again. It's a decent laptop, you know, of the day when they bought it. It's got a 7th generation Core i5 processor in it. Like I said, 8 gigabytes DDR4. It's a 15.6 inch full HD 1080 display, and it is a touch screen. And it's got a backlit keyboard. It's got a lot of nice features, really, for what it is. So really all I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up and I'm going to get rid of that hard drive, and I'm going to install a brand new Crucial MX500 series 2.5 inch SATA SSD. That's all. They're going to just use it for internet and other basic stuff or other stuff. And I'm going to bump up the RAM from 8 gigs to 16 gigs. It's got an extra slot in there, so I'm going to put in another stick of 8 gig DDR4. It's 2400, that's what's in here, so that's what I'm going to put in. So yeah, basically it's just time for an upgrade so they can start using it again. So I'm going to go ahead and just shut it off, then get into Windows. And they don't have anything on here they give two hoots about, so we don't have to worry about any data. So I'm just going to bring it up to date. But yeah, that 1703 edition, that came out back in April of what, 2017, I believe. As soon as it shuts off here, I'm going to unplug my power cord. It's very clean. It looks brand new, so we're going to make it usable. I've already taken liberty to remove all the screws except this one here that holds in the optical drive, and there's another one right here. All these other screws are all the same length, and you can see I have them laid out right over here. So I'm going to remove those two other screws because this screw and this screw are real short. All the others are the same. I'm using a number 0 Phillips screwdriver to pop these out. Yeah, I missed my camera, guys. Now I'm going to go ahead, and now that I got that screw out, you should be able to slide that right out. Oh, UPS is right next door, guys. Happens all the time. And then once you get the optical drive out, there's 3 small little pan head type screws in here. They're very tiny, so be careful you don't bug them up. Use at least a number 0 Phillips to get them out of there, like I'm going to do here. So we can get the bottom cover off. It should come out without too much trouble. Sometimes they're in there really hard, sometimes they're not. Oops. All right, so I got that. All the screws are out now, so all I'm going to do is flip it back over, make sure your laptop's turned off. But on these models here, they're pretty simple. There's a seam right along where the palm rest cover here meets the bottom. There's just a seam that we got to get our little plastic spudger tool in, or something very thin. I'm going to just start it in the seam here and just kind of work it around. I know the camera angle is not the best, guys, but I'm on my own, so I'm doing the best I can. So once I get that new SSD in there, I'm going to do a clean install of Windows 10, the 2082 edition, certainly not 1703 edition. So I got it started. I'm going to flip it back over here, And usually from the side where the CD-ROM drive is, it lifts off. Yeah, see, it lifts off pretty easy here. But you gotta be careful. Along the back, if it's stubborn, you get a plastic tool in there and kind of pop it up from the back, but it's really quite simple. All right, now carefully, when you're poking around in here, guys, always make sure you're protected against static electricity and static discharge. All my bench tops, my floors are all anti-static, so I don't need to worry about it. But if you want to disconnect your battery, which I'm going to do, that's fine. It's connected right here on the motherboard. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that. It's kind of hard to get to, but it should come out without too much trouble. So there, I got it disconnected here. I don't know if you can see that, but right here is the battery cable I've removed. So now, as an added precaution, I always like to open them up, holding my power button a few times so I can discharge any residual current that's flowing around in there, just in case you drop a screw or a screwdriver. Now the old hard drive is right here. There's going to be just 1, 2, 3 screws that hold it in. This other hole will take a screw that comes down through the bottom cover there to go in there. So we got to get rid of 3 screws here to get the hard drive and the caddy out. Then I'm going to put my 2.5-inch SATA SSD in there in its place. And there's no M.2 slot on this computer. It's just too old to have that. So I got the 3 screws out. We're going to have to try to see if I can finagle it out of here. Underneath this big ribbon cable here that goes to this little I/O board over here for the USB port. We should be able to leave that in place, but I have to disconnect it here from the hard drive carefully. Now, so I got to get the hard drive out of the caddy here. There's just 4 screws holding the brackets on, but I'm going to cheat, guys. I'm going to use my cordless screwdriver to wrench those out of there real quick. Oop, just to save time. I know some people in the comments yell at me for using this, but it's not a drill, it's a screwdriver. It doesn't go very fast, but it's got some torque. Sometimes it's easier to hang on to and manipulate the screws. So anyway, I'm gonna get the old hard drive out of there. I'm putting my 250 gig SSD in there. Just gotta get it in there right. Just like that with the label facing up. Looks like. Boom, boom. And I'm gonna put those screws back in. I'm gonna use a number 1 Phillips here. Put them back in. Don't want to really over tighten them. Just snug them up and that's it. Boo-doo, boo-doo. Now you can put any size, really. You can put a 500 gig SATA SSD, 1 terabyte SATA SSD in here, just as easy. But what they're going to do with it, 250 is more than enough. Get Windows. Probably going to throw their Office 365 on it, I believe. But yeah, they bought this and just kind of forgot about it. Things didn't work out with the 5th wheel or something to that effect. So I got it mounted back in the caddy. Now we're going to try to reattach this cable. Oh, boogering it up. It only goes one way. Make sure you got it snapped in. Just got to line it back up right here. There. Just lines up with these little stems they got sticking out here, and we won't worry about that screw, because once we put the bottom cover back on, it's going to hold that in. All right, so let me put those 3 screws back in. If I can. Always use good quality tools when you're doing these kind of projects, so you don't mess up screws, and it just makes your job a little easier, or the job a little easier. Goes pretty quick. Last thing I'll do is pop in that stick of RAM. So yeah, with a solid state drive and 16 gigs of RAM, it's got a Windows 10 Pro digital license, so when we do the clean install, it should activate with that. Same edition. Here's our 8 gig stick of DDR4 2400. I'm going to put right in the empty slot right here. It only goes on one way. Just make sure it locks in all the way. Get a good click. Everything looks good there. So yeah, I mean, like I said, unfortunately, because of the age of the laptop, there is no M.2 slot, but it's extremely clean. There's literally not a speck of dust in that fan in there. You can obviously tell. Here's your CMOS battery. Sometimes when they sit for years, the CMOS battery goes bad and you have to replace it with a new one that just simply plugs into the motherboard right here. But in this case, it seems all right. Once we start using it, it'll keep it charged up there. So we got our SSD in there, our RAM. Now I got to hook the battery back up real quick. Once you do this, you got to be very careful what you touch. Sometimes have to be kind of lifted up to slide back in. So there we got the battery plugged back in right here. Make sure your ribbon cable didn't pull loose from the hard drive caddy here on the motherboard, which it didn't. It looks good. You could have disconnected it here and just took it out and did it, but one or half a dozen the other, it worked. So now I'm just going to put the cover back on. On these, I'm going to start kind of over on this side. Get it around those ports there, make sure it doesn't booger anything up. You can snap it back on from the top once we get it going here. Just careful when you're squeezing, you don't squeeze too hard on this because you have a screen under there. If you squeeze too hard, you could actually damage your screen, even from the back side. So I am going to put these 3 little guys back in right here where the optical drive goes, because I know it's going to be all right. And I forgot to grab my flash drive. Yeah, sometimes these little guys here can be a pain to get out if they're torqued in too tight. So I'm going to slide my optical drive back in place. Put the screw back in that holds that in. I'll wait to put all the longer screws in just in case something goes awry. And I'm going to put this other short screw back in. Just like that. And we'll plug in my AC adapter. Go ahead and snap this back in place. Along the front here so it looks pretty. Alright, so I got to run over here and grab my Windows 10 bootable flash drive for our clean install. Alright guys, I didn't have it handy, I had to go snatch it. So I'm just going to pop it in. Actually, I'm going to put it in this USB port over here, I think. Now I'm going to see if it's just going to default to this drive. I'll have a link down below where you can make one of these Windows 10 install drives. It's real easy. You just download the Windows Media Creation tool and you can create that. Have to have an 8 gig flash drive or larger. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and see if it'll default to that. It's probably going to tell me that the amount of memory has changed. The BIOS has got to read that new memory, so it'll take a minute. So we just got to be patient. Come on, Dell. All right, alert, the amount of system memory has changed. That's totally normal, so we can just click on continue. We don't need to go into the BIOS. I already checked the BIOS, so it is set for UEFI. Secure boot is enabled, so that's good. Not sure if it'll default to that drive. If not, we can hit F12 to bring up the one-time boot menu. It's trying. There it goes. It's booting out the flash drive now, guys, so we can get our clean install. And I won't bore you with the whole installation. Right at the end I'll come back, so I'm going to get it started here. I'm going to choose English, United States. Click on install now. Just going to start setup and detect our new SATA SSD, hopefully. Yeah, it's a DELL Inspiron 15 5000 series 5567. So I'm going to accept the license terms, hit next. I'm going to choose custom. Boom, there's our 256 unallocated drive. I'm going to hit next and let the files get going here, and I'll be back in just a few minutes, guys. All right, I got to this step here where it's asking you to connect to a network or the internet. I always forego that. I just click down here in the corner where it says I don't have internet during this initial install. Just don't need it. Continue with limited setup. Just put in user for right now for username. No password. And I always turn all this stuff off just for sake of privacy. Hit accept. Cortana's not speaking to me today. She must be mad at me. Not now. So we'll get into Windows real quick, check our drive and our memory, and we should be good to go. I'll get all the updates for Windows 10. Probably check on Dell's website and see if there's anything important I should get. This will take a couple minutes, guys, so bear with me here. I know this is kind of boring. And of course, at this point, you can remove your flash drive as soon as it reboots the first time. Make sure you check out more of my videos. Check out my playlist, guys. Got some good videos on doing other laptops like this. There's, replacing drives, M.2 drives, clean Windows 10 installs, etc. Almost there. Leave everything to us, of course. All right, so the clean install took about 7 minutes maybe total. It's going to start, I'm not connected to the internet, I'm not worried about that. So let's real quick open up Task Manager here. Probably can't see real well, but I'll click on the Performance tab and I'm going to go to Memory, and boom, there's our 16 gigs of memory. So we're good there. Guess we'll just go to File Explorer real quick. And there's our 256 gigabyte SSD right there. We're good. So we got a good little upgrade, 16 gigs of RAM, a solid state drive now instead of the hard drive. We should be good. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Give me a like if you liked it, and give me a sub if you loved it. Y'all have a great day.